Welcome back, dear viewers. And in this segment of our program, we are going to talk about the importance of training and how can we help in training ourselves to be more competent in what we are doing. And we are joined today by Mrs. Mahgoub. She is an international expert in human resources management, UN organization. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Maha. Dr. Maha, to start with, how can we train ourselves to be more competent and more skillful in the areas that we are interested in and in the domain that we are intending or we are actually working in?
Yeah, nowadays training is very important for individuals, for corporates, for governments.
Yes.
So we are running just a very difficult mission because of globalization and competitiveness. So the whole world nowadays are talking about how to improve skills and knowledge of the persons, of organizations, of governments, and how to create competitive advantage for each one. We can start with individuals, how to develop or train themselves for the most competitive opportunities in the market.
Yes.
So before, in the past, we did not used to have some trainings, but once the internet has been arise and the country is playing an important role for developing people by training, and a lot of entities are providing training training opportunities.
Yes.
So it's very important. But at the beginning, we are going to talk about the person himself, how to develop his skills, his knowledge, attitudes to cope with the changes in the society, the globalizations, the most requested skills all over the world. So nowadays, it's once we have the internet, so we don't have any problem. So in the past that we had an encyclopedia, and it was difficult to acquire knowledge.
Yes, of course. Now it's easy and accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible on internet, on YouTube.
So how to face that very harsh competitiveness, Dr. Mahgoub?
Yeah. At the beginning, we have to know what about our objectives. What would you like to be? What about my current competencies, skills, knowledge? What would I would like to be? What about the other opportunities in the market which qualify me? So self-development is very important, either for students, for graduates, for employed people. So it's very important to develop themselves, and at the same time we have to look for other countries. What about their nations? What about their people? In Dubai nowadays, some people, they learned how to manufacturing a lot of modern equipment, and by 2021 they are going to reach Mars.
Yes.
So we are living, we are living in very, very fast competitiveness. So if we don't develop ourselves, we develop our business, or each one, he has to work on himself, how to develop himself, how to see what about
work on himself as well.
Yes, continuous development, continuous training. Either it would be by self-development, and at the same time, nowadays the country and the NGOs are providing huge training opportunities. But the most important thing that how to use this training in order to develop competencies and to improve the performance and to gain more opportunities in the external environment.
Indeed.
So, Dr. Maha, tell us more about the role of NGOs in training young people and developing them.
Yeah, actually the NGOs now here in Egypt, maybe we have more than 50,000 NGOs all over Egypt, and they have access to countryside, villages, other governorates, and so maybe the government itself or other entities, they cannot reach those people.
Yes.
And those NGOs or association or foundations, they are getting some funds from international organization or local organizations for developing their people. So each one who lives in a certain area, he has to be connected with a certain foundation or association in order to know what about their programs, because actually sometimes they are looking for some people to deliver training program, but they don't find proper people. So we have to know what about the NGOs who are surrounding the same area, what about the training programs and self-development opportunities, so they can join these programs. So it's very important to know about their plans.
How can we see here a real collaboration between the government and the NGOs and maybe the private sector in order to help the employees maybe, or the entrepreneurs, or the youth, in order to develop their skill and be more competitive and up to date, to be real competitive for the market?
Actually, all of them are connected together.
Yes.
If you are going to talk about the private sector, okay, some of them, not all of them, are providing training programs to their employees. And it's worth to mention that it's very important. A lot of governments and a lot of entities, they recognize the importance of training. For example, it's a strategic importance or plan for developing their people. For example, in USA, they allocate $150 billion for developing people. In England, they are providing 2% of their national budget, of annual budget, for developing people. So the private sector, some of them are providing training programs. On the other hand, they can link with the NGOs. How? As social corporate responsibilities. So they have to prove themselves and to provide services to community, and this they can implement these services by via NGOs, because they are seeking for the most needed areas for the training and development, and they can implement their plans or CSR via NGOs. On the other hand, the NGOs cannot perform their missions and tasks unless they can be supervised from the government. So if they have allocated funds or something or plans, so they are supervised by the government. At the same time, the governments, they have their national projects, training projects, such as the National Training Academy headed by President Sisi nowadays is playing an important role to improve.
That's a very important point, Dr. Mahgoub, that you have raised now. The PLP and the role here of training young cadres for the leadership capabilities. How do you see the importance of developing such a program? Because actually many youth were not actually aware how to follow this path or to develop their capabilities. So what's the importance of providing such a program?
In the recent years, the country and governments recognize the importance of youth and how to build their capacity. Therefore, the President Sisi used to hold continuous conferences for youth, and they are demonstrating the skills of those youth by simulating some programs. So building the PMP and LP, this is a specialized program for building leaders from youth, how to train them to hold just and important positions. And now, because nowadays we are talking about youth, how to build their capacity, how to prepare them for future job, how to set succession plans for them, and how to qualify them to hold a governmental position, either in parliament or ministry or whatever.
So what are the challenges that face training organizations when it comes to training youths?
Actually, they don't know what about the training process. So at the beginning, just for example, when I was working in a formal organization, private organization, they thought about that if they have budget and how to allocate these budgets to implement training programs, either it's needed or not needed. So the first step that we have to study or analyze the needs of training, because the main purpose of training is just to address the needs of training. About the weaknesses of the any employee, and then to design a special program to develop his skills and knowledge and attitudes. So this is very important step. So, and they have to They have to look after and to start with to study the needs of training, then design tailored programs for youth in order to build their capacity and to improve their performance.
Yes. Dr. Mahgouba, I'll ask now about women empowerment, since we are talking about women, the role in the society and how to empower them, how to give the proper training for women. And of course, you are a consultant at many UN organizations.
Yeah.
So many of them, of course, are keen on developing the women and their capabilities and so on. So how do you see here the role of the NGOs again and the UN and the government in order to give a boost to the capabilities of women? Because many women, maybe in Upper Egypt or in some provinces, maybe were not able to develop their capabilities because of many obstacles, of course.
Yes. The first, I'm going to talk about the obstacles for which face women, which are traditions of Egyptian society, religions, and so on, maybe which prevent the girls and women to acquire training or education or maybe holding a certain position. This is the main obstacles, and it's related to society norms and so on. But building the capacity of women nowadays, the government, NGOs, international organizations are playing an important role to build the capacity of women. For example, in political life, nowadays we have 8 ministries and about 15% of parliament are represented by women, which has never been happened before, because this is the highest percentage we have reached on the international organization, which are connected to NGOs and governments. They have certain problems to build the capacity for women, especially for householded women, marginal women who needs more training and who needs more capacity building in order to live, because nowadays as well we have 40% of Egyptian women are householded, either they are married, widows, singles, and they are holding a lot of responsibilities. So nowadays we are building the capacity of women in different areas, so maybe political, social, economic, by teaching them small projects or something like this, or setting a quota with any organizations for building their capacity and to hold a certain leadership seats in any organizations.
So finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Maha Mahgoub, international expert, human resources management, UN organization. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Maha. Always a pleasure. And that, our dear viewers, would bring us to the end of this edition of our breakfast show. You were in the company of myself, Mahisti Rabi, and my dear colleague, Shireen Adis. Shireen.
Thank you, Mahisti. Thank you, dear viewers, and see you tomorrow with a new crew.